How is the reverse carry trade going to impact XRP? In this video, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about, because right now we are watching a potential ticking time bomb unfolding in the cryptocurrency markets. And a lot of people are wondering, what the heck is this going to do to the price of XRP? Well, in this video, we're going to break that down and talk about a couple other exciting developments that you absolutely need to be aware of. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do help me out so much. And with that said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the content. I'm going to start out this video off and cover something a little funny before we get into the reverse carry trade stuff. I know a lot of people are looking forward to hearing about that, but I want to share with you something, in my opinion, that is a little bit of slap in the face to the Bitcoin maxi. So many of you probably know our friend Gary Cardone out there. Gary Cardone, gonna hold any judgment there, but was essentially pointing out this post, right? That we just had the first onshore United States-based derivative market opening up under the CFTC for cryptocurrency. And Gary Cardone posted on this and he said, probably nothing. And we all know what Gary Cardone is saying there. He's like, wow. And I completely agree, right? Having an onshore derivatives platform for institutions to engage in the cryptocurrency market is absolutely phenomenal. But Gary Cardone is also a huge XRP and Ripple hater. So I thought it was really funny to point out to him that this exchange, this first regulated derivative CFTC perpetual future market going live in the United States, right? We both agree it's a really big deal, but something that I don't think he's taken time to look into is the fact that Bitnomial, the company he was talking about, is heavily involved with Ripple and XRP. In fact, so much so that Ripple was actually the leader in their last round, as well as the fact that Brad Garlinghouse is on the board of directors. Guys, I posted in response to this, I said, just wait until Bitcoin maxis find out that XRP is being used as collateral for this CFTC regulated derivatives exchange. Now, technically, that hasn't been announced yet, but guys, I can almost guarantee that both XRP and RLUSD are going to be used as collateral on this platform, and it is going to be the ultimate slap in the face to the Bitcoin maxi. So I just thought it was funny. Anything that they see that doesn't have Ripple's name on it, right? They're all over it. They're like, this is insanely bullish. This is crazy. A regulated derivatives market for the United States. This is absolutely bullish. And once they do a little bit more research, they're going to find out Ripple's name is written all over it. And I can almost guarantee you XRP is going to be the collateral that is backing a lot of the different financial products being issued in this regulated market. And I just think it's going to be a really funny full circle moment. I wouldn't be surprised if suddenly they're saying, oh, this exchange is no good. We won't look at this. Guys, they know this stuff is a really big deal. They're just extremely biased because for whatever reason, they learned somewhere down the road that they're not supposed to like Ripple and XRP. I find it so funny that if you cover their eyes and blind them and just tell them the news and don't tell them what's attached to Ripple and XRP, they're like, oh, this is super bullish. We'll see what happens when they find out that this is going to be a huge catalyst for Ripple and XRP. We'll see if their reaction changed. But it just goes to show, guys, a lot of these people, they don't actually have real intelligent thoughts about these kind of things or their reason for being anti-XRP. They're just anti-XRP because they were told at one point in their life they're supposed to be anti-XRP. They don't have any real thought process or thesis behind that. In fact, they really just don't even understand it. So long story short, be careful who you follow. Be careful of the news you ingest, because a lot of the people who position themselves as experts out there aren't really experts. With that said, I want to jump into some news about the Japan reverse carry trade, because it's something everyone is talking about. And I think a lot of people probably ask me about this because Jake is obviously someone who is at the forefront of really talking about this. And people want to know, what is my perspective on the Japan reverse carry trade unwinding? Now, I'll start with this. Whenever you have an event like the Japan reverse carry trade, people are going to identify these things very early. Jake has been talking about this for a very long time, and I think he's really been spot on with it, right? It's really played out to a large degree exactly like he said. But it's important to understand one thing that I think a lot of people are misinterpreting in this whole thing. Just because that the reverse carry trade event, right, hasn't caused a mass liquidity spike yet, it doesn't mean that it hasn't been weighing and drawing on markets for quite a bit of time now. In fact, if you take a look at the XRP price chart, you can see that XRP, since its high, is down close to 50%. A lot of this has to do with the reverse carry trade playing out. A lot of institutions have known and started acting on this, and people who are on the forefront, like Jake, of calling this, right? They have been ahead of the curve in terms of calling this. This isn't something that's going to catch the market off guard. It's something that a lot of people are watching, a lot of people have their eyes on. So is it possible that there is a flash crash where things get really bad and you have a liquidity spike down because eventually things unfold? Absolutely. But I would argue we're actually pretty far into the event taking place in the grand scheme of things, and the prices of assets have already kind of reflected the risk associated with it because people have been watching it, monitoring it, fearful of it. It's not the kind of black swan that hit us like other events. I have to be careful of what I say. Other events we've seen where they just come out of nowhere. It's like, who would have seen that coming? It's like, boom, suddenly there's no more United States economy, right? Those are the kinds of things that take everyone off guard, and you have that instantaneous crash. For something like the reverse carry trade, because it's something that has been really seen, it's been an issue projected and different people have been on it, you just need to understand that the black swan, right? We could already be maybe 70 to 80% through the way of this thing taking place. And I just want people to be cautious of that because I think a lot of people assume, oh, it doesn't happen until it happens. Markets are very forward looking, and if they can kind of smell it and whiff it out, they're going to start reacting ahead of time. So while I think it's totally possible that it gets a little worse, things get scary, the market spikes down, there's a liquidity event, bank goes, so something happens. I think at the end of the day, the more important thing to be paying attention to is what the market has already reflected in terms of this potential event happening. If we take a look at the oversold areas on XRP, we can actually see we're at record oversoldness on XRP. Both of these times have indicated an upward move of close to 600% and 130% in the past. And that's because essentially the market is just way undervalued. The market is way oversold on XRP. And typically what happens is when the market is oversold, it reverts back to the norm and goes back to fair pricing. And if not, those positive catalysts start coming back in and put it to a point where it's actually overbought on the market. So this is just to say, right, just because there's a catalyst out there that people are worried about doesn't mean that the market hasn't already been potentially ingesting and understanding and reacting to this catalyst. Maybe we haven't seen the final punch in the stomach yet, right? But we're already been in the boxing ring for at least a couple rounds now. People have known about this reverse carry trade event. People have been acting on it. And we're kind of waiting for that knockout punch if it's going to happen. We're waiting for the boxer to potentially get pulled out, i.e. stimulus comes in to unwind some of this from government intervention. It's impossible to know which one of these events is going to take place. But the thing you need to understand is that the market has already reacted and digested a lot of this news and reflected that accordingly. So is it possible we have one more spike down? Is it possible something comes out of nowhere and catches us off guard? Absolutely. But it's not to say that the market isn't already sort of prepared and already reflecting some of those prices. As we just talked about, XRP is already extremely oversold, and it doesn't stay oversold for that long, right? The market has already kind of reached exactly where it's going to go in order to be scared of this news or scared of this potential catalyst. And it's just something to keep in mind, right? When you're evaluating how much lower can XRP go in this event. Unless something completely comes out of nowhere and completely catches the market off guard, right? Like something crazy, right? It's like to the event of what we saw in 2020. Those are the kinds of things that the market's just totally unexpecting. It's just a crazy punch from someone that you weren't even expecting to be in the fight. But when you're kind of in the fight, everyone sort of knows about it. Everyone's sort of getting involved, right? Some people were very early. Some people were a bit later. Those are the times of things that the market has time to adjust and react to. So I just want to caution people from thinking, oh, well, it hasn't happened yet, therefore the market must not be at a bottom. Guys, it's potentially the fact that this whole thing could be at its complete end stage right now, and we just watched the crash from the reverse carry trade. So just some things to keep in mind. Obviously, no one has a crystal ball. We have no idea how bad things can get, how impactful things can get. But I just want people to be aware that the market has already reflected a lot of negativity. And sometimes when the market reflects so much negativity all at once and prices are already down, sometimes those last couple punches, you don't even feel them, right? The market just says, you know what? We already priced in this bad thing happening, this bad thing happening. And in fact, all the bad things that happened weren't even as bad as we thought. So the market could go up instead. You can see a great example of this actually when it comes to companies reporting earnings. If you've ever tried to buy a stock or buy a company when that company reports earnings, sometimes you're left like shaking your head. You're like, that was the best earnings report I've ever seen, and the company is down. Well, that's because the market was already expecting that to be great earnings. Or sometimes a company could have the worst earnings report you've ever seen, but the market already knew it was going to be bad and it wasn't as bad as the market was expecting, and then the price was up. So just always understand that if something is being talked about in the market, if it's being leaked, it's possible the market already has a beat on that information. And it just matters, is it worse than people are anticipating or better? And based off what we're seeing with XRP's oversoldness, I'm just giving the general warning out there that maybe we're a little closer to a bottom. Maybe the market has already reflected in a lot of this to a larger degree than people are anticipating. At the end of the day, the most important thing though is it doesn't matter. In 5 to 10 years from now, no one's going to be talking about the reverse carry trade. Instead, they're going to be talking about Ripple becoming a dominant player in payments, treasury, liquidity, stablecoins, and prime trading. These are the things that matter at the end of the day. In the same exact way that no Apple investor cared about 2008, or no person cared about the 2018 rate temper tantrum that the market sold, or no one now cares about what happened during 2020. All of these negative catalysts, they seem so scary, but guess what happens every single time? Great assets get cheaper for a brief period of time, and then they get much more expensive as the market realized there was absolutely no reason to sell that asset cheaper. So you just always need to understand the market is very forward looking. It's going to see these things happening. It's going to start to price them in. And a lot of people, unfortunately, think that when the market is already pricing these things in, they're going to be a step ahead and say, you know what, I'm going to get ahead of the reverse carry trade and get out of all these assets now. When guys, really the time to do it was 4 or 5 months beforehand, when the market first started getting whiffs that there's going to be something potentially brewing around the corner. Just keep that in mind. Over the long term, this is not going to matter at all. Over the short term, it's possible we see some more volatility, especially to the downside if things are worse than people expect. But it's not to say this is going to completely blindside the market. The market is clearly reacting and anticipating something going on here. And if things shake out not as bad as the market is anticipating, it's even possible that we've already seen the bottom. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update. I hope everyone has a great weekend. And for now, Mickle out.